Heat slammed through my skull so hard I swear I could hear it buzzing, like some busted neon sign refusing to die. I dragged myself across the bedroom floor, palms slipping on the hardwood, breath rattling in my chest. Joel just stood there, leaning on the doorframe like nothing was wrong at all that night. His face was blank, colder than the AC vent blasting from above, and the dude didn't even blink. I croaked his name, begged for help, but he looked at me like I was some stray dog that wandered into his house. My vision blurred, sweat dripping like I'd run a marathon in August that day. He pushed off the frame, walked over slow, that smug little half-grin tugging at his mouth. Then he dropped a stack of papers right beside my hand, the pages fluttering like they didn't want to be part of this mess either. "I'm done," he said, voice flat. "You're broke, useless, and dragging me down. Right now." I tried lifting the papers, but my fingers shook too hard to grip anything. Everything inside me felt twisted, like my ribs were wrapped in barbed wire. "Joel, please," I whispered, barely more than a gasp. His eyes narrowed, annoyed, like my suffering was some inconvenience he couldn't be bothered with any more at all tonight. He stood up, straightened his shirt like he had somewhere way better to be, and headed for the door. "Sign those when you stop whining," he said, not even glancing back. The lamp's glow hit his wedding ring, flashing like a tiny betrayal I'd ignored for too long. Then he switched off the lights completely. Darkness wrapped around me, thick and suffocating, like the room itself wanted me gone too. My breathing hitched, vision tunneling as I tried pushing myself upright. The fever hammered behind my eyes, each pulse like a punch. I reached for the nightstand, missed, and hit the floor hard enough to see stars spinning above me. A cold wave rolled through my body, stealing whatever strength I had left. I tasted metal, maybe blood, maybe fear, I couldn't tell. My hands scrabbled across the floor for anything to hold onto, but everything slipped away, just like him. Somewhere outside, a car engine revved, and the sound felt like abandonment itself that night. My heartbeat thudded uneven, like a messed-up drumline nobody could follow. I blinked hard, trying to focus, but the room stretched and twisted like a bad dream. The divorce papers lay beside me, edges sharp as blame. I could barely breathe, but even then, some tiny spark inside whispered I wasn't done yet at all. My body gave out before my will did. My cheek hit the floor, cool against my burning skin. The world dimmed at the edges, colors fading like old photographs left in the sun. I heard my own breath stutter, soft and broken. And right before everything went black, I felt a strange, heavy stillness settle. I didn't know it then, lying there alone in the dark, pulse slowing like it was giving up on me, but that fall was the crack that split everything open. The night Joel walked out was the night fate spun back around. And 3 days later, the man who thought he'd won would learn otherwise. I should have left right then, right when it hit me that I didn't belong in the house I once mopped barefoot at midnight. But instead, I did what I've done my whole life. I tried to make myself useful. Quiet. Helpful. Invisible. The party got louder by the minute. Music bumping, people laughing too hard at jokes that weren't funny, liquor flowing like somebody opened a fire hydrant. It smelled like perfume, cheap beer, and a whole lot of privilege I didn't recognize. Before I knew it, a half-eaten plate got shoved in my hands. Then someone called, "Hey, could you grab more napkins?" Another waved a drink at me like I was staff. And I, fool that I am, did it. Picked up plates, cleared cups, wiped counters. Didn't even think. Muscle memory of a lifetime spent serving people who never looked twice at me. I caught Eben watching me from across the room, jaw tight. Not in concern, in irritation. Like I was messing up the vibe he'd curated. Like my existence didn't fit the color scheme. "Mom," he hissed when he walked by me, barely moving his lips. "Chill, okay? Stop acting weird." Weird. Right. Because being helpful is embarrassing now. I forced a smile, kept cleaning. A little kid ran past, bumped my elbow, and I dropped a wine glass off the table's edge. It hit the hardwood and shattered like a tiny explosion. The music didn't stop, but the conversations did. Heads turned. Eyes landed on me like I'd pulled a gun instead of a glass. "Oh, for Mom!" Eben stormed over, running a hand down his face like he couldn't believe the universe had cursed him with me. Can you not? Seriously, what is wrong with you tonight? I opened my mouth to apologize, but the words got stuck somewhere behind my ribs. A girl near him whispered, "Is she drunk?" Another murmured, "Does she always do this?" My cheeks burned hot enough to light the room. Eben raised his voice, not just loud, but loud, the kind meant to humiliate. "Everyone's sick of you," he snapped, throwing his hands up. "You make everything a damn hassle." The whole room froze. The DJ, the guests, the kid holding a slice of cake mid-bite, everyone just stared. The silence was so sharp it could have cut open my chest. A strange calm washed over me then. Not sadness. Not anger. Something quieter. Heavier. Like a door inside me creaked open after years of being nailed shut. I crouched to gather the glass pieces, each shard reflecting my shaking hands. Nobody helped. Nobody even breathed. When I stood up, the world felt tilted. Something inside me, something old, something tired, shifted so hard it might have cracked. I looked at my son. Not the boy I raised, but the man he'd become. And I realized, this wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a bad moment. This was who he was now. I wiped my palms on my dress, lifted my chin, and walked toward the microphone stand at the front of the room. If they wanted a show, they were about to get one. The next morning hit slow, like my body was rebooting after crashing hard. The fever had broken, but everything still felt sore and heavy, like someone had stuffed my limbs with sand. The hospital room hummed with quiet beeps, that soft mechanical rhythm that said, "You're still here." Barely, but here. Nurse Dana walked in with that no-nonsense stride, holding a tray in one hand, and something else tucked under her arm. A metal case. Old. Heavy. Scratched up like it had lived through a war. She set the tray down, checked my 4-line, then glanced at the door before leaning closer. "You awake enough to talk, sweetheart?" My throat burned, but I nodded. She exhaled, a slow, steady breath that sounded like she'd been holding it for years. Then she placed the metal case on my lap, and the weight of it nearly pressed straight through the blankets. "This," she said quietly, "was delivered here years ago, before I even transferred to this unit. Instructions were simple. Give it to Mira Brookfield the moment she has nothing left. And honey," she looked at me with eyes that had seen too much, "last night, you had nothing left." My fingers trembled as I brushed over the cold metal. A rusted latch. A faded label with my name on it. My real one, the one I stopped using the second I tried building a normal life. "Who brought it?" I whispered. Dana shook her head. "No sender. No signature. Just authority. The kind of authority people don't question unless they want to lose their job." A tiny chill crept through my spine. Not fear exactly. More like recognition from a nightmare I'd tried forgetting. I unclipped the latch, and the case creaked open like it hadn't been touched in a decade. Inside were layers of documents, sealed envelopes, notarized papers, and a thick leather file stamped with a crest I hadn't seen since I was 18. Brookfield Industries. My family's empire. My inheritance. My escape. My breath stalled. Dana noticed. "You okay?" "No. Not even close." I opened the file and memories hit me like a freight train. My father's booming voice, the shouting, the threats, the night everything spiraled so far out of control I ran and never looked back. I swore I'd rather starve than go back to that life. So I hid. Changed my name. Buried every piece of who I used to be. But the papers inside made one thing painfully clear. They never lost track of me. There were legal documents confirming ownership stakes I never claimed. Copies of board votes held in my absence. Letters addressed to me. Pleading, demanding, warning. And in the center, a photo of me at 19, smiling like I didn't know monsters existed. My hands shook as I flipped through everything. Then, tucked in the back, I found a sealed note. My father's handwriting scratched across the front. "Mira, if you're reading this, you've fallen further than I ever imagined. And it's time you come home." My stomach twisted. Home was the last thing that place ever felt like. But what hit me hardest wasn't the inheritance, or the expectation, or the demand. It was the realization that Joel never knew any of this. Never bothered to know. To him, I was just some broke, quiet girl he could push around. A charity case he could mold. Someone small, safe, convenient. He didn't love me. He loved the version of me he thought he controlled. I closed the file, the metal case humming with every secret I tried to bury. Nurse Dana stepped back as I pulled the blankets tighter around me, my voice barely above a whisper. He really thought I had nothing. But the truth. I had more than he could ever handle. And for the first time since Joel left me on that floor, something sharp and alive flickered inside my chest. Something that wasn't hurt, but resolve. Because if this file had resurfaced, then the past wasn't done with me. Not by a long shot. Joel always had this way of acting like the king of some tiny kingdom nobody else cared about, and tonight he turned it up to full blast. His apartment, our apartment technically, was lit up with soft gold lights, overpriced candles, and music that sounded like it came straight from a rich people pretending to relax playlist. A couple of his buddies lounged around the kitchen island, sipping craft beers like they were auditioning for a commercial. And right in the center of it all was Alina, draped across Joel's lap like she owned the place already. She tossed her hair back, laughing too loud at jokes that weren't even funny, her red lipstick smeared on the rim of her wine glass. Joel raised his glass and tapped it with a spoon. "Ladies and gents," he said, wobbling slightly because he'd had more tequila than food. "A toast. To freedom." Finally. Someone hooped. Someone else muttered, "'Bout damn time," and everyone laughed like this was the happiest night of Joel's life. He grinned wide, leaning back smugly. "Man, y'all don't even know. Living with Mira was like dragging a dead battery everywhere. Always sick, always broke, always stressing me out. I swear, I thought she'd drain the life out of me before I hit 30. Alina giggled, stroking his chest. "Poor baby," she cooed. "But you've got me now." "Damn right," Joel smirked, kissing her like he'd been waiting years for an audience. No baggage, no drama, just vibes. He basked in the spotlight, retelling the same embellished breakup story like he was some hero escaping a villain. I dropped her off, handed her the papers, and walked out. Easy. Clean. Done. Clean. Yeah, right. If Karma were a person, she'd be sitting on the couch right now taking notes. The group drifted into light chatter, Alina pulling Joel toward the kitchen to slice cake she didn't even help bake. He wrapped an arm around her waist like she was the prize he'd finally won. Just as he lifted his fork, Joel's phone buzzed on the counter. He ignored it at first, but it buzzed again, and again, and again. Alina rolled her eyes. "Ugh, babe, just answer it." Joel snatched the phone, glancing at the caller ID. "It's the bank," he muttered, annoyed. "Probably some fraud alert for me treating myself too hard today." He winked, trying to keep the mood light. But when he answered, the vibe shifted real quick. "Yes, this is Joel Carter," he said, with that fake professional voice he used when he wanted strangers to think he had his life together. "What's the issue?" A pause. Then his eyebrows crashed down. "What do you mean, flagged transaction?" he snapped. Alina leaned closer. "Everything okay?" Joel held up a finger, listening. His jaw twitched. "No, I did not authorize any large withdrawals." "What? Hold on. Frozen. Frozen for what reason?" His voice cracked on the last word, just a little, but everyone in the room heard it. The bank rep must have been giving him the runaround, because Joel went from confused to irritated to full-on pissed in under 30 seconds. "Look, there must be some mistake. My accounts shouldn't be locked. I just used my card this afternoon." Another long pause. Then Joel's face drained of color. "Reviewed by who?" he demanded. "What audit? What do you mean, linked to potential misuse of marital funds?" "I'm divorced." "Well, almost." A couple of his friends exchanged looks. Someone tapped the music down low. The whole room felt like it was holding its breath. Joel slammed his palm on the counter. "No, no, no, run it again. This is ridiculous. I need access tonight." The rep clearly told him no. Joel's next sentence came out a whisper. Reevaluated. In 72 hours? He froze. Completely. Like someone deleted his personality for a second. Without saying goodbye, he hung up and dropped the phone onto the counter. The impact echoed through the apartment. What's happening? Alina asked, eyes wide. Joel swallowed hard, forcing a dry laugh. It's nothing. Just some dumb system glitch. But the laugh didn't land. And the smile didn't stick. And the room didn't believe him. A thin, sharp panic crawled up his spine, settling in his shoulders like cold hands. For the first time that night, Joel didn't feel like a king. He felt like someone had just pulled the rug out from under him. And he had no idea who was holding the edge. But I did. And soon enough, he was gonna feel the rest of it. Lying in that hospital bed, wrapped in too many blankets and not enough strength, I finally had time to think. Really think. And that's when it hit me. Somewhere between Joel's insults, his cold shoulders, and all the nights I cried myself to sleep, I had shrunk. Not physically, but on the inside. Like someone kept dimming the lights in me until I forgot they were ever bright. Funny thing is, I wasn't always this small. Once upon a time, I was dangerous. Sharp. Loud enough to be heard and bold enough not to care who hated it. But Joel. He didn't break me with fists. He used silence, dismissal, guilt, the sneaky kind of abuse that creeps in real slow, like mold. First, he'd say I was too emotional. Then, too dramatic. Then, too much. And before I knew it, I was apologizing for existing. I became this watered-down whisper version of myself, always trying not to upset him, always trying to be easy. Looking back now, I want to grab my past self by the shoulders and shake her. Girl, what were you doing letting that man talk to you like you were some clearance rack bargain? But trauma has a way of slipping back in even when you don't invite it. Because years before Joel, long before I tried building a new life, I'd already learned how to disappear. My family wasn't just wealthy, they were powerful in that walk into a room and everyone stops breathing kind of way. Brookfield wasn't just a name, it was a dynasty. And growing up inside it felt like living in a luxury prison. The city thought we were royalty. Behind closed doors, it was screaming, glass breaking, doors slamming, threats disguised as discipline. The night I ran away still plays in my head like a movie I didn't want tickets to. It was past midnight. My father was in one of his rages, one of the really bad ones. I remember him yelling about deals and loyalty and how his children weren't allowed to embarrass him. My brother tried stepping in, and Dad snapped harder. Something in me cracked open then. I grabbed what I could stuff in a backpack, climbed out my window like I wasn't the heiress of a billion-dollar empire, and didn't stop running until my legs gave out. I chose anonymity because power poisoned everything it touched in my family. I wanted peace, simplicity, a life where no one bowed, no one expected, no one controlled. And for a while, hiding felt like freedom. Then Joel found me, right when I was vulnerable, unsure, still healing. I mistook his attention for safety, mistook his confidence for love. And he mistook me for someone helpless. But I'm not helpless. Not anymore. Not ever again. I looked down at the metal case from my past, fingers tracing the crest I once swore I'd never acknowledge again. My heart pounded, not from fear this time, but from something fiercer. Something that tasted like awakening. You ready? Nurse Dana asked softly from the doorway. I nodded, even though the truth was messier. I wasn't ready to face my family. I wasn't ready to reclaim the power I ran from. And I sure as hell wasn't ready to reopen the wounds I buried deep. But I was ready for one thing. To stop being the version of myself Joel molded. To become the woman I used to be. And someone even stronger. Because this time, I wasn't returning for them. I was returning for me. By the time morning rolled in, the version of me who let Joel walk all over her was gone. Dead. Buried. The woman who sat up in that hospital bed, weak, sore, stitched together with 4 fluids and spite, was someone else entirely. Someone sharper. Someone who remembered exactly who the hell she came from. Nurse Dana slid my phone back onto the tray with a raised brow. Your people already cleared your access. You're officially reinstated. Whatever that means. Oh, it meant plenty. Brookfield Industries wasn't just a business. It was a fortress. And I had keys Joel didn't even know existed. I logged into my secured account, a portal I hadn't touched in years. The interface loaded, clean, dark, expensive looking, and my name appeared across the top like it had never left. Mira Brookfield. Primary Executive Authority. The weight of it punched through my chest. I wasn't pretending anymore. First order of business? Clean house. Starting with a man who dumped me in the rain like a busted TV. I typed a quick command. Initiate. Marital Financial Audit. Carter. Joel. Level 7 access. Level 7 wasn't a casual, let's check your spending, level. Level 7 meant unrestricted digging. Full exposure. Zero mercy. Within an hour, reports flooded in. Charts, statements, flagged activity, anonymous withdrawals, shady transfers, purchases he swore he never made because money was tight. Yeah. Tight for me, apparently. Turns out Joel had been funneling marital funds into secret accounts, lying about bills, overspending, and running side hustles he didn't want the IRS, or his poor, useless wife, to know about. I stared at the screen and whispered, "Damn, you were bold. By noon, I authorized the next step. Freeze all linked accounts. Carter. Joel. Pending investigation." Boom. Just like that, every card, every digital wallet, every backup stash he thought he was slick enough to hide, locked. When the system flashed action successful, a little thrill rolled through my chest. Not revenge exactly. More like justice with a side of poetic timing. By evening, I was out of the hospital on temporary discharge, moving slow but steady. I had Dana wheel me near the street-facing window of the cafe across from Lorenzo's, one of the fanciest restaurants in the city, the exact kind Joel only went to when he wanted to flex. And sure enough, there he was. Joel. New suit, stupid grin, Alina clinging to his arm like she was auditioning for a trophy position. They walked inside, laughing like life was perfect. I sipped my tea, hood pulled low, heart steady as a surgeon prepping for a cut. 20 minutes later, it happened. I saw the waiter bring the bill. Joel reached for his card. Smooth. Confident. Swiped. Waiter frowned. Tried again. I could practically hear it from across the street. Declined. Joel frowned, already annoyed. He grabbed another card. Declined. He snatched his wallet, pulled out his emergency card, the one he thought nobody knew about. Declined. Alina blinked at him like he'd suddenly turned into a stranger. The waiter stepped back, uncomfortable but professional. And Joel. He was unraveling. Hard. I watched him stand, angry whispering into his phone, pacing like a man whose world suddenly had cracks in it. People stared. Someone snickered. Alina shifted her chair, slowly pulling her hand off his. My phone buzzed. A message from the audit team confirming. Subject is attempting card use at multiple payment terminals. Freeze holding successfully. I smirked behind my cup. Across the street, Joel slammed his fist on the host stand. The manager approached with that polite, tight smile people use when they're dealing with embarrassing adults. Alina slipped out the door without waiting for him. Panic swallowed Joel whole. He kept checking his phone, shaking his head, mouthing, "This can't be happening." But it was. Oh, it definitely was. And as he stumbled out onto the sidewalk, rain sprinkling lightly, almost like déjà vu, I watched him from my seat. Hidden. Calm. Silent. He thought it was a bank glitch. He thought he still had control. But day one was just the warm-up. And I wasn't even done. Joel woke up to someone banging on his front door like they were trying to kick it off the hinges. His head was pounding, his throat dry, and the embarrassment from last night still clung to him like cheap cologne. He stumbled out of bed, hair sticking out in every direction, shirt twisted sideways. "Yo, chill. I'm coming," he yelled, thinking it was maybe a delivery guy or some neighbor complaining about noise. It wasn't. The second he yanked the door open, two men in suits stood there, stone-faced, badges out, no-nonsense energy radiating off them. Joel Carter. the taller one asked. Joel blinked. Yeah. Who are you? Financial Crimes Division, the shorter one said, flipping a page on his clipboard. We need to ask you a few questions about irregular transactions linked to your accounts. Joel froze. Hold up. Financial what? Man, y'all got the wrong dude. They didn't even flinch. Behind them, a few neighbors peeked through blinds and cracked doors. Mrs. Parker from across the hall was straight up pretending to water her fake plant just to get a better view. Someone down the hall whispered, "Ooh, they got him." Joel's stomach dropped. "This a prank?" he snapped. Both agents stared at him. "Yeah, not a prank. We're investigating multiple unauthorized transfers," the taller agent continued. Large sums moved through personal accounts tied to potentially fraudulent activity. Joel threw his hands up. "Fraud? Me? Bro, I don't even return stuff without the receipt. My accounts are frozen because your bank system is trash, that's all." The shorter agent raised a brow. "Your accounts are frozen because of our complaint, Mr. Carter." Joel's voice cracked. "You filed it? For what?" "We have documents showing marital funds misused over an extended period. We need clarification on several withdrawals and offshore deposits under your name." "Offshore?" Joel squeaked. "Man, where do y'all come up with this? I ain't got no offshore anything." The agents exchanged a look, one of those, "Oh, he lying looks." Joel stepped out into the hallway, waving his arms like he could swat the problem away. "Look, I don't know who set me up, but y'all barking up the wrong." And then Alina appeared at the end of the hall. Hair in a messy bun. No makeup. Hoodie on. The woman looked like she'd aged 10 years overnight. "Joel," she said quietly, shuffling forward. "We need to talk." "Oh, now you want to talk?" Joel snapped. "You left me at the restaurant like I was contagious." She winced. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't want to get involved." Joel stared at her. "Involved? You live here, Alina." The agents cleared their throats. "Mr. Carter," one said, "we need to complete this interview. Preferably inside." Joel pointed at Alina. "You hear this? They're accusing me of stealing my own money." But Alina didn't defend him. Didn't even move closer. She backed up, tiny step by tiny step, until her shoulder hit the wall. She was distancing herself. Like he was radioactive. Joel's chest tightened. "Seriously? You believe this crap?" She didn't answer. That silence hurt more than anything the agents could have thrown at him. The taller detective opened a folder. "We're required to show you this." Joel grabbed the document, eyes scanning the first page, and everything inside him shut down. At the top, stamped in bold, Brookfield Industries. Official complaint. Filed by Mira Brookfield. His hands started shaking so bad the paper rustled. "Mira," he whispered. Nah, this gotta be a mistake. Mira ain't, she's not." The agent corrected him. "She is Mira Brookfield. Legally. Financially. And she has full authority to pursue charges." Joel's jaw unhinged. Full authority? Brookfield? Like Brookfield. The rich people. The agent nodded. Joel staggered back like he'd been punched in the chest. His breath came out uneven, panicked. He shook his head over and over like reality would change if he denied it hard enough. "Mira ain't rich," he muttered. "She's sick. She's broke. He trailed off, realization slamming into him. She wasn't any of the things he called her. She never was. And he had tossed her out like trash. The hallway went dead silent. Alina whispered, "Joel, what did you do?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. Because for the first time, Joel finally understood. The walls weren't just closing in. They were about to crush him. And the person tightening every bolt was the woman he tried to erase. By the third morning, I wasn't just getting stronger. I was getting sharper, clearer, meaner, in a way I hadn't let myself be in years. Joel's world was already teetering, wobbling like a drunk on roller skates. And today was the day I pushed. But first, I needed the one thing he never thought I'd find again. The tape. Not metaphorically. A real recording. One so damaging, so stupidly reckless, it was almost impressive Joel ever let it exist. After getting discharged, Nurse Dana drove me back to the house Joel had kicked me out of. She didn't ask questions. She just kept the engine running like she already knew revenge had an ETA. The second I stepped inside, the place smelled like him. Cheap cologne, ego, and bad decisions. I didn't linger. My body still hurt, but determination carried me straight to the bedroom. Under the dresser. Behind the loose panel. The same spot I used years ago to hide money from Joel whenever he had one of his "I deserve that" splurge moods. There it was, wrapped in a small cloth bag. A tiny recorder, matte black, dusty, forgotten. Except I didn't forget. And clearly, neither did Karma. I clicked play. Joel's voice crackled through the speaker, smug and loud like always. "Look, Alina, I'm telling you, once she's out of the picture, everything's mine. Her stuff, her savings, whatever she's hiding. Trust me, she's too weak to push back." Alina laughed, sugary sweet and fake. "Then hurry up and get rid of her. She's barely functioning anyway." My stomach tightened, but I kept listening. Joel again. "I'll make it look natural. Sick girl can't keep up, you know? Once the divorce goes through, she won't have the strength or the money to fight me." Alina snorted. "And what if she catches on?" "Oh please," Joel scoffed. "Mira. She doesn't even know half the accounts I'm moving stuff through. She's clueless." There it was. In his own words. Every lie. Every scheme. Every ounce of cruelty he tried to bury. I stopped the tape, my hand shaking. Not from fear, but from the dark rush of satisfaction that comes when the universe hands you the exact weapon you need. Back in the living room, I texted the lead investigator. "I have something you'll want." They met me outside within 30 minutes. 2 unmarked cars. Serious faces. Clipboards ready. Detective Harris approached me first. "Ms. Brookfield, are you sure you're up for this? You just got out of the hospital." I held up the recorder. "I'm up for this." He nodded. "Let's hear it." I hit play again, letting Joel's voice spill into the open air. Arrogant, taunting, undeniable. The detective stiffened instantly. "Jesus," Harris muttered. His partner shook his head. "This is enough to bury him." I folded my arms. "Good." They exchanged looks that said everything. This case was no longer messy, it was airtight. "This confirms intent, financial exploitation, and neglect," Harris said. "Domestic endangerment charges won't be hard to add." The words should have felt heavy. Instead, they felt like justice. The same man who tossed me out like trash, who bragged about my weakness, who weaponized my illness, was about to face consequences he couldn't charm, cheat, or yell his way out of. And I wasn't done yet. As the detectives loaded the evidence into their car, Harris paused. "Ms. Brookfield, do you want to be present when we bring him in?" I took a breath, steady and strong. 3 days ago, I couldn't even crawl. Now I was ready. "Yeah," I said, voice calm as ice. "I want to see his face. Because tomorrow." Joel wasn't the only one who needed answers. I wanted some too, and I intended to get every last one. The holding room smelled like cold metal, stale air, and panic. Mostly Joel's. He paced back and forth, running his hands through his hair so hard he looked like he was trying to rip it out. His wrists were cuffed, but that didn't stop him from tugging at them like he could magically break free. "Where is she?" he barked at the officer outside the door. "You can't keep me here without letting me talk to her." I deserve to explain. This is a misunderstanding. The officer didn't even blink. "She's on her way." Joel scoffed, but the panic in his voice cracked through. Good. 'Cause she knows me. She knows I'm not some criminal. She'll clear this up. Funny. 3 days ago, he couldn't even look at me without disgust. Now he was clinging to the idea of me like a lifeline he'd already cut. The door clicked. Joel spun around instantly, chest heaving, hope flaring in his eyes like he expected the weak, trembling Mira he threw out into the rain. He wasn't ready for who walked in. I stepped inside slow, dressed in a fitted black coat, hair pulled back, makeup subtle but sharp. I didn't look sick. I didn't look broken. I looked like the woman I'd forgotten how to be, the woman he prayed never existed. He froze. Completely. Mira. His voice wobbled like the ground just shifted under him. Wow. You look different. I pulled out the chair across from him and sat. Composed. Silent. Joel sank into the seat opposite me, shaking. Babe, listen, I don't know what they told you, but this is all blown out of proportion, okay? Someone set me up. Someone's messing with my accounts, my name, everything. I lifted one eyebrow. He swallowed. Hard. I mean, yeah, okay, maybe I made some mistakes. He laughed nervously, palms sweating. But I didn't hurt you. Not really. You know I didn't mean half the things I said. I was stressed, Mira. Work was killing me, money was tight. Money wasn't tight, I said softly. His mouth clicked shut. You had plenty of money, I continued. You just didn't want to spend it on me. He blinked fast, like he didn't expect me to talk. Or maybe he didn't expect the steel in my voice. Mira, baby, come on, don't do this. I messed up, but we can fix it. I got scared. You were always sick, and I didn't know how to handle it. I stared at him. So you dumped me at a shelter? He winced, guilt finally bleeding through. I panicked. I wasn't thinking straight. I was unconscious, Joel. He covered his face with his cuffed hands. I know. God, I know. I messed up. I was stupid. Just, please, tell them I'm not a monster. The room went quiet. Joel looked up at me, eyes glossy, voice breaking. Why didn't you just tell me who you were? Why didn't you tell me you were rich? There it was. The question he thought mattered. I leaned back, letting the truth settle between us like smoke. I wasn't poor, I said, calm as chilled steel. I was healing. It hit him like a punch. His jaw slackened. His breath stopped. His entire world cracked open behind his eyes. Healing. A word he'd never once asked about. A reality he never cared to see. For the first time, Joel realized I didn't leave the marriage broken. He did. The officer stepped forward. Time's up. I stood. Joel reached out like he wanted to grab me, but the cuffs stopped him short. Mira, please. You're the only one who still cares. I looked at him, cool and steady. No, Joel. I was the only one who still pitied you. And with that, I walked out, leaving him shaking in a room he created, trapped by the consequences he earned. News spreads fast in this city, but the way Joel's arrest hit the streets? Man, it was like someone launched a headline grenade and let the shrapnel fly everywhere. By sunrise, every gossip page, morning talk show, and nosy neighborhood group chat had his mugshot front and center. Messy hair, puffy eyes, that confused, I didn't think consequences were real expression plastered across his face. Former husband arrested. Financial fraud. Domestic neglect investigation pending. Yeah, people ate it up like free samples at Costco. Alina vanished faster than a tax refund. Deleted socials, stopped answering calls. Probably hopped to another city pretending she was the victim of a toxic ex. Classic. And me. I walked out of the police station into a soft drizzle, the kind that wasn't quite rain but wasn't letting you forget the sky had feelings. For the first time in what felt like forever, the air didn't feel heavy. I wasn't scared. I wasn't hurting. I wasn't crawling. But I also wasn't celebrating. Freedom didn't show up as sunshine or fireworks. It showed up as emptiness, a quiet space inside me where pain used to sit and scream. I didn't know if that space was peaceful or just hollow. Nurse Dana waited by the curb, umbrella in hand. You want to get something to eat? She asked softly. Soup. Coffee. Literally anything. I shook my head. I need to go somewhere first. She didn't push. She never did. She just nodded, squeezed my hand, and flagged a cab. I slipped inside, giving the driver an address I hadn't spoken aloud in nearly a decade. Brookfield Tower. Even saying the name out loud felt like a challenge to gravity. By the time the cab rolled up to the building, the rain had turned to a steady fall. The tower loomed above everything: glass, steel, and money. The kind of place that made people straighten their clothes before walking inside. The kind of place I used to pretend didn't exist. My reflection stared back at me from the front doors, stronger, colder, clearer. No Joel. No sickness. No shame. Just me. I stepped in, my boots clicking against the marble floor like the building was announcing my return. People glanced up from their desks, some whispering, some stiffening. They knew my face. They remembered the daughter who ran away. The heiress who disappeared. The ghost who suddenly walked back in with storm clouds at her heels. The elevator ride felt too quiet. Too slow. I watched the numbers climb, my heartbeat matching the rhythm. With each floor, pieces of my old self stacked together like someone was reconstructing a person I'd tried hard to forget. When the doors finally opened to the executive level, the scent hit me. Polished wood, expensive suits, tension. Like stepping into a memory I didn't want but needed. And then I saw him. Leaning against the glass railing, arms crossed, suit crisp enough to slice air. My older brother, Adrian. The last person I saw the night I fled. The last person I ever expected to face again. He didn't move at first. Just studied me with that unreadable expression he always wore, somewhere between concern and calculation. The kind of stare that made you feel seen and threatened at the same time. "Mira," he said finally, voice low, steady. "You really came back." I swallowed, grounding myself. "Yeah," I said. "I did." He pushed off the railing, taking slow steps toward me. The rain streaked down the windows behind him like the world outside was melting, but inside, everything was sharp. "You know what walking back through those doors means, right?" His eyes held mine, unblinking. "The world you left isn't the same. And the people in it aren't any softer." I exhaled. "I'm not soft anymore." Adrian studied me, like he was measuring whether that was true. Then he asked the question that cracked the floor beneath my feet, the one that sliced right through whatever illusion of stability I had. "Are you ready to take your place?" He stepped closer, voice a low challenge. "Or repeat the same mistake that nearly destroyed you?" The room felt colder. My breath hitched. The weight of my past, my pain, my power, all of it hovered between us. I didn't answer. Not because I didn't know, but because the choice wasn't just mine. The next chapter wasn't about Joel anymore. It was about every shadow I'd run from, and every monster wearing my last name.